What an off-season for indoor and arena football. Certainly was one of the off-seasons of all off-seasons. We had more splits, launches of new leagues and teams, and attempted rapid expansions. A lot of shooting for the stars and failing to launch going on. But that's mainly down to two leagues I'll be talking about today. Some leagues, like the IFL and the Arena League, have had relatively quiet off-seasons despite some bumps in the road. But we have finally made it. Spring Arenaball is upon us. And depending on where you live, you could have a buffet of all sorts of Arenaball to choose from. So with March upon us and preseason NAL ball going on and what's left of the AIF already playing, let's dive into a hater's guide of sorts for all things Arenaball for 2025. Touchdown! The king is dead. Long live the king? Truth be told, the AFL 2024 relaunch was an unmitigated disaster. Even after Mastermind Lee Hutton III's ousting, the AFL's copyright holders, G6 Sports, were still making moves that were making ownership upset. The brawl in the mall almost didn't happen due to unpaid bills, and it took the Albany and Billings ownership groups putting up large sums to make sure that everything happened at the last second. As a result, the remaining 8 teams of the AFL 3.0's 2024 season left shortly after they formed their own league with AFL ambitions, the AF1. And with those 8 teams, CEO Jerry Kurz and Commissioner Jeff Fisher went to work with rapid expansion with 5 expansion teams and another moving over from a rival league. However, with the exception of the Oregon Lightning and Arizona Bandits, 3 of those expansion teams failed to make the finish line to the season. The Monterey Kings of Mexico and the Stockton, California Crusaders were announced on November 18th to be taking a year off to focus their efforts on hitting the turf with all their ducks in a row for 2026. And the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton Mavericks, a team with a strong coaching staff with Sean Leota leading the way and a near-complete roster, was suddenly terminated on February 14th, 2025 as it became clear that they didn't have their ducks in a row as previously thought. While Mr. Kurz did oversee the AFL's relaunch in 2010, he had a near-complete roster of existing teams from the previous AFL and AF2 to promote. Unfortunately, a less than 6-month window to launch this many teams has proven to be a lot harder than previous thought. Heck, 2 of the expansion teams that will play, Arizona and Oregon, they actually have their roots and efforts stretching back multiple years to fall back on, instead of trying to rush everything from scratch in such a short time period. On top of this, the Wichita Regulators, who struggled in their first year of play in the AFL with a 2-6 record, would go dormant for the 2025 season to better strengthen their efforts. But the Arenaball offseason hasn't been all bad for the upstart league. They were able to score a TV deal with a restructured Vice TV, who, like the CW network with college sports and NASCAR, have looked into sports themselves to bring in new fans and viewers. A new arena league with AFL ambitions seemed like a prime opportunity, and as a result, the cable network will broadcast a highlighted game of the week of the regular season with the newly formed Sunday nights in the arena block. Every team will get at least one home game broadcasted by the network, which helps out greatly with smaller market teams like Oregon, Southwest Kansas, and Salina able to promote their product in cities to a national audience. Other games will be streamed on a new streaming service, Evergreen Now, a podcast network that's expanding into streaming. And finally, the league has formed a partnership with Verizon Business, which will help make sure these broadcasts go off without a hitch. So who will play in this new league? 10 teams will take to the turf for 2025, and honestly, that's not a bad number for a abundant league to start off with. The league tried a moonshot with said rapid expansion, but honestly that seemed like a stretch for such a short offseason, and it's probably for the best that these teams had this happen in the offseason instead of mid-season like the AFL did in 2024. 10 teams, 3 divisions. In the West, you have the defending Arenaball champs, the Billings Outlaws, Washington Wolfpack, and expansion Oregon Lightning and Arizona Bandits. Both Oregon and Arizona have had aggressive marketing and recruiting. and I honestly expect these two teams to contend come kickoff. In the East, you have a division of old stalwarts, the Albany Firebirds, Nashville Cats, and Orlando Predators. This has sort of become a division of legacy franchises from the old AFL, so you know the old heads will be diehards for these teams. Wilkes-Barre Scranton was supposed to be in this division, but its last-second termination leaves Albany unfortunately on kind of a geographic island. Hopefully 2026 sees them in Orlando get some closer competition. And in the Central Division, you have returning AFL contenders, the Southwest Kansas Storm and Salina Liberty. Two successful franchises from their CIF days, and proudly representing their small Kansas cities of Dodge City and Salina. And a new entrant, the Corpus Christi Tritons. Corpus Christi played last year in the AIF, Finch and runner-up, and were supposed to be in the rival National Arena League for 2025. But a fallout with that league in November led Corpus Christi into the AF1's arms. This is certainly a team to watch, especially as they recently signed the hottest free agent in Arenaball this offseason, former Arenaball MVP Darius Prince. 10 teams, 14 weeks of regular season, 6 teams postseason. Just have to make it through the inaugural season, boys and girls. The pieces are in place for this to be Arenaball's best shot of getting back into the public zeitgeist since the AFL 2.0's sudden collapse at the end of 2019. I'm just hoping that the league learned lessons this offseason with expansion and team vetting, because public trust in Arenaball leagues are at an all-time low, and the rapid expansion and the resultant nevermind with a lot of these announced teams certainly has fueled the already rampant nihilism and skepticism for this league and the industry as a whole. Please have a successful season. Touchdown! Now let's pop open a case of Old Reliable, the Indoor Football League. The IFL has enjoyed a slow rise since pre-COVID, and has quietly stood atop the indoor football world since. While its arch-rival in the 2010s, the CIF floundered and eventually split off into two factions that went to the AFL and NAL, the IFL stood above those shenanigans with slow expansion with actual standards and picky ownership selection. Sure, you had the Louisville Extreme implosion of 2021, and the Spokane Shocks and Cedar Rapids River Kings exclusion in 2022, but those were the last time Arenaball shenanigans really played out for this league. Then the postseason hit and rumors started flying. 3 teams that played in 2024 all announced that they would go dormant for the 2025 season due to different reasons. I covered these teams and the Dakota Bucks in more detail in my previous video, 4 Tales of IFL Dormancy, so please go check out that video if you got a chance. But despite losing the Frisco Fighters, Duke City Gladiators, and Sioux Falls Storm for 2025, the league has added the Fishers Freight, a team based in the Indianapolis suburb of Fishers, and owned by Indy Fuel's ECHL hockey owner, Jim Hallett. He's built his own arena for both teams to play in, and the slow build-up in partnership with an existing sports franchise will be used as a model for future expansion in years to come. The league also loosened defensive rules during the offseason, as defensive penalties have become pretty ticky-tacky in recent years, and in an effort to allow both sides of the ball to shine. Overall, despite the loss of these 3 teams, which there are efforts to bring all 3 back, by the way, this has been a quiet yet solid offseason for the league. Now, social media did get a little too quiet and complacent for a bit, but the league has returned to the new year with newfound focus on showcasing player signings and trades to garner interest for the upcoming season. So there will be 14 teams across 2 conferences, East and West. In the East, you have the Fishers Freight, Green Bay Blizzard, Iowa Barnstormers, Jacksonville Sharks, Massachusetts Pirates, Quad City Steamwheelers, and Tulsa Oilers. In the West, you have the defending champions Arizona Rattlers, Bay Area Panthers, Northern Arizona Wranglers, San Antonio Gunslingers, San Diego Strikeforce, Tucson Sugar Skulls, and Vegas Nighthawks. Each team will play a 14-game schedule across a 19-week regular season, and 8 teams, top 4 from each conference, will play in the postseason. Of the leagues I'm talking about today, the IFL is easily the most solid of them all. And while it doesn't have a flashy TV deal like the AF1, they are indeed the most drama-free. the IFL has done a lot of work to essentially run itself like that of hockey's AHL and ECHL. And it's even basing a lot of its expansion around those teams, so they have another sport for their employees to work with for a good part of the year. Having an established ownership group able to pivot their expertise straight into indoor football, it's something that's a lot more sustainable than a team that's largely shut down for all but 3 or 4 months of the year. Anyways, old trusty IFL. Just maintaining the course and enjoy the ride. Touchdown! Now that we've covered the rock of indoor football, let's go in the other direction with the National Arena League. I know, I should be kinder, but man, for a lot of the big talk the NAL and its followers do this offseason, it's always the same Arenaball shenanigans year in and year out. 2024 was a rough year, with all but the Carolina Cobras departing for the AFL and IFL, and teams like the Omaha Beef and Sioux City Bandits coming in and pretty much taking over to run the show. They did their best with what they had, but in the end the league finished with only 5 teams. They did cap it off with an incredible championship game between the Beef and the Bandits, so at least they had that. So with that, the NAL would go on to have their own sort of rapid expansion for 2025. They would absorb the remaining 4 teams from the short-lived AIF reboot, with the Columbus Lions, Corpus Christi Tritons, Harrisburg Stampede, and Amarillo Venom, now the Dusters, joining, along with AIF Commissioner Brandon Icard joining the NAL staff. They'd add the AAL2 championship team, the Wheeling Miners. They'd add 2 expansion teams in the Beaumont Renegades and Shreveport Rougarou. So yeah, a league record of 12 teams. But things would quickly unravel. When the schedule was released, the Tritons were left off. The league was really vague in saying that it was due to issues we tried to work with the team but ultimately couldn't resolve, and the team stating that it was due to disagreements with the schedule. And thus, the Tritons would leave and quickly join the rival AF1. Then on December 3rd, the Harrisburg Stampede suddenly went out of business, dropping the league to 10 teams. Before finally on February 2nd, the Amarillo Dusters would have their membership terminated, largely insinuated that they couldn't maintain league dues, much like the North Texas Bulls and Topeka Tropics from the previous offseason. On top of all of this, Commissioner Todd Walkenhurst left the league shortly after Amarillo's ousting to pursue opportunities outside the league, and Mr. Icard was only promoted to be league commissioner. It has seemed that every time the league tried to take a few steps forward, they'd get hit with roadblock after roadblock. Despite all of this, the league will soldier on with still a league record of 9 teams, and split between 2 conferences. While not officially labeled as such, they are de facto Eastern and Western conferences, National and American. In the National Conference, you have the Colorado Spartans, Idaho Horsemen, Omaha Beef, and Sioux City Bandits. In the American Conference, you have the Beaumont Renegades, Carolina Cobras, Columbus Lions, Shreveport Rougarou, and Wheeling Miners. Also, the league is officially back to playing full indoor style of play, instead of the mixture indoor and arena that they played with last year. Yes, folks, the Nets are finally gone. I want the National Arena League to succeed. I truly do. But man, all the high and mighty talk that they and their supporters have done while talking down the AF1, while they themselves are facing similar issues, are, well, a lot of stone thrown from inside a glass house. Anyways, like the IFL, you can find most NAL games live streamed on their YouTube page. Good luck, National Arena League. You've talked a lot of smack this offseason. Let's see if you can live up to that smack talk. Touchdown! And now for something completely different. The Arena League kind of burst onto the scene last year with its unique play and focus on small markets. The Arena League played with a 6-on-6 ball, with every offensive player being an eligible receiver, Ironman rules, and no kicking. This was a surprising breath of fresh air. This turned into a little league that could, and it really gave indoor football a minor league baseball feel with its fun team names and branding in these small Midwestern cities. Duluth Harbor Monsters, Iowa Woo, Kansas City Goats, Ozark Lunkers, and joined this year by the Eau Claire Axemen and Hot Springs Wise Guys. This is a fun take on the game, and honestly, it provides the game potentially a new path for a sustainable future in small markets. Instead of trying to ape the AFL with everything but the nets, instead the game has taken an intentionally smaller approach. You don't have to worry about trying to kick in a small old arena like the Iowa Woo's Hippodrome, because that's not part of the game. Duluth are the defendant champs, and the Goats have relocated to nearby Joseph, Missouri due to issues with their old arena, Kansas City's Municipal Auditorium. Also, the biggest change on field this year is that they're adding a 7th player for both sides of the ball. But like I said, this league has brought a minor league baseball or minor league hockey approach to arena football, and honestly, I think this is the future for small market indoor football. For far too long, we've had leagues like the AIF and AAL try and fail to be the IFL or NAL on a budget. And both have failed dramatically, in some cases multiple times. With this approach, things are scaled down appropriately, but it still gives fans of the indoor game a chance to see their favorite sport played on a sustainable level. So yeah, year 2 of the TAL, certainly something to watch come May. Touchdown! Do you like the TAL? Sad that it's primarily a Midwestern-based league and you wish you had something similar in the Northeast? Congrats! You now have the Entertainment Football Association, or ENTFLA. If everything on paper looks like the TAL model plopped into a new region of the United States, that's because essentially it is. A NFL Hall of Fame commissioner in Andre Reed, and advised by Tommy Benenzio, a former IFL and CIF commissioner, on top of being an owner of several indoor football teams and minor league hockey teams. While not an exact copy of the TAL, the ENTFLA does seem to be focusing heavy on the fan experience with pre-game tailgates and post-game concerts. It does provide a new opportunity for the sport to grow in the Northeast. Like the TAL's debut season, the ENTFLA will debut with 4 teams: the Danbury Diesel, New Jersey Ciphers, Fitchburg Heroes, and a yet unnamed team playing in the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. Like the TAL, 3 of these 4 teams will play in smaller arenas, primarily small ice arenas, which are littered across the Northeast. The Long Island team is essentially an odd duck for this league in the TAL, as it's the former home of the New York Islanders NHL team and the New York Dragons AFL team. But the rest of the league does embrace the TAL small-town football feel. There's still a lot of questions to be answered before kickoff on June 6th, but I love the idea that this style of small-town arena football being applied in different regions of the United States. It feels like a much more sustainable model than whatever pop-up leagues like the AIF, AAL, Can-Am, or whatever alphabet leagues pop up. Teams go bankrupt or have a complete lack of arena quality control, and in the end, players and fans are the ones who are left hurting. This truly feels like an attempt to bring in a new era of smaller market indoor football with actual quality control to the forefront, and I hope it succeeds. Touchdown! And before I do sign off, there are some traditional style of indoor football leagues trying to hit the turf for the 2025 season. As I produce this video, a relaunched AIF with only 3 teams is currently playing, with the Cedar Rapids River Kings, the Coralville Chaos, and West Michigan Ironmen playing each other. Last year's AIF relaunch was a mess with teams getting kicked out, failing, and sputtering to the finish line with its championship game between arguably the 2 strongest teams in the league playing each other. Trust me, the gap between these 2 teams and the others was wide. And as I write this, the gap still seems to be there, with the Ironmen essentially blowing out the Chaos in a 75-7 game in their home opener. I'd much rather see the Ironmen in a consolidated River Kings and Chaos, both are owned by the same owner by the way, put in their efforts to step up and make an actual effort to compete in a league like the NAL. And then there's some new teams to keep an eye on with their independent schedules or small leagues. As if things go well enough for them in their debut seasons, You may see them step up to a league like the NAL like the Wheeler Miners did this year. Kind of a training wheel season to prove that they can make their business model work for a league like the NAL to see. First up is the Iowa Power in Dubuque, Iowa. This team is owned by coach Anthony Bartley, and they'll play in the small United Indoor Football Association League come August. Unlike most of that league's teams where they play in indoor soccer plexes, the Power will actually play in a proper arena, and they are making a massive push in the community to get behind them. If things go well, I could see them being a potential expansion team for a league like the NAL. And then there's the South Carolina Ravens in Florence, South Carolina. After failing to get in a larger league due to their unproven newness, they appear to have tried to start their own league with the Professional Arena Independent Association. However, despite having several Southeastern-based teams initially signed up, the league appears to have mostly fallen apart due to a lot of lack of communications between these teams, and yeah, it wasn't pretty. And it appears the Ravens will instead play a mostly independent schedule for the 2025 season. I kind of hope this team is able to put something together for this season, as they've made a massive push in Florence, South Carolina in the Florence Center. And I'd hate to see all that effort go to waste. Again, if they do prove their worth, I could see them as a potential NAL expansion team for 2026. And there's still your smaller Tier 3 leagues that feature teams playing in mostly soccer plexes and indoor sports plexes. While leaning more on the semi-pro side of things, these teams provide a good place for players fresh out of college to keep their football dream alive before getting noticed by a team in a larger league like the NAL, AF1, or IFL. Leagues of that level to look out for include the AAL2, the UIFA, the IFA, and of course many, many more. And there you have it, Wookie's 2025 Arenaball Preview Extravaganza. I hope you all enjoy this upcoming season, and I hope for the best success for all of these teams and leagues for 2025. May everyone finish their seasons, and may everyone have a good season. 2024 was a rough year for the industry, and honestly, I really hope 2025 turns the corner for this sport that I love. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.